Okay, this video is just going to serve to kind of give you an idea of the expectations for the training plan assignment this week. And, I felt like it was worthwhile to spend a few minutes just kind of outlining what I would expect you to do. And then, hopefully your peers are following this, especially when they go to grade. And the training plan is, again, we're continuing this on the animal that you've chosen. And like I said in the basic principles of learning lecture, there's many training methods out there. So just because you train a certain way or may believe in a certain theory, the way somebody else trains may just be as good as what you're doing. So don't worry too much about that. But what we're going to jump into is the principles, the basics behind it. And with this assignment, does not need to be very detailed, not asking for a dissertation or a long thesis. Keep your answers very brief and just based on the concepts. But I think it's worthwhile to run through it so you'd have to think about these situations. So again, you're going to base this on the animal you chose, whether it's a horse, donkey, mule, or any other type of hybrid, or a zebra if you chose that. You're going to base this on them. Now, there's two parts to this assignment, and the first part is halter breaking. And this is the very basics of horse training, because you really need, regardless of the animal you have, regardless of how you plan to keep them, whether you just want a companion animal that's going to be outside your window and is going to beautify your landscape, or something that you really want to take and compete with around the world. They all need to be halter broke, because you're going to go out and capture these animals if they're injured, or for the veterinarian, for your hoof care plan, taking care of their feet. All these things you need to start with halter breaking. Now, for this assignment, especially if you're using an animal that you own, assume they're not trained, just for the purposes of that. And really, your training objective is, how are you going to halter break them? What's your plan? So you can review that basic psychology and training lecture and look at the different ways these animals learn and come out with a plan of how are you going to get them to wear their halter. And I'll tell you, looking at all of those, even social learning plays some role. They're not going to learn to do that just by social learning. I'll give you a hint there. But some of that could play, or Latin learning. But habituation, sensitization, or associative learning, all of those have been used in halter breaking. So what your assignment is to think this through and then very briefly outline how you're going to do this. So, I would put it in bullet form. Step 1, I'm going to do X to get the horse to do this. Step 2, as soon as this is achieved, I'm going to do this. Step 3, step 4, so forth. You don't want it really long, but just a brief outline on what learning principles you're going to use and how. Now, the second part is kind of contingency training. And, you go out one day and either, it's going to happen where you do a normal activity and the horse completely says, nope, not doing it. And maybe it's just the day. So then you go out the next day. Same thing. Nope, not doing it. Okay, there's some contingency going on. So how are you going to go back and fix that behavior? Now, in this part 2 example, or what I'm asking you to do, is you're going to go out and see your animal chewing on your wooden fence. Now you have to decide, how am I going to resolve this? There's different things you can do, and I know somebody's going to do some of the things I'm thinking of, which maybe consider cheating, but it's okay. You may do that, but we'll see. I'll see if I can find it in the discussion forum if anybody does that. But what you want to do is review the abnormal behavior lecture, because we kind of talk about alleviating some of these behaviors. And so 2 things. How would you change your management to limit this behavior? And then 2, is there ways you can train your horse not to chew wood? And what learning principles could you use? So very briefly, answer those 2 questions, and then you're done with part 2. Now, just for the peer evals, again, we're going to ask you to evaluate at least 3. So use the grading rubric, which is right here. So here's your grading rubric. And I would say does not meet expectations is a bunch of gibberish. Can't really figure out what they're saying. Meet expectations, yeah, they kind of understand what they're saying, but they probably didn't watch the lectures or understood what was going on. So, you know, they gave a good effort, and some of the things could be, and then exceeds expectations is something that, wow, you know, yeah, they watched the lectures, they got it, this would work. So also understand though that English, again, is not the primary language for some of our students. So you're grading on content, not grammar and spelling and stuff like that. So use that grading rubric and complete the training plan by the end of this week, week 3, and complete your peer evals from week 2, the introduction and hoof care plans, by the end of this week, and then we'll release this assignment next week for peer evals, and then we'll jump into the feeding plan for week 4.